Hey guys, how's it going? This is your host, Living Dead Cat, with another episode of the Art and Mental Health Stream. Wonderful to have you join in, and as always, I hope you're having a good day. I am not a licensed professional, nor am I a certified counselor, but guess what? Starting to take classes this week. It originally was going to be on Wednesday, but date and night changed, and a bit earlier this week. So I'm going to those accommodations to spend time with art, and I will be starting my certification studies on Friday. So without further ado, go ahead and guys the list of what's today. Today's topic is a revisit. This gives a chance for new followers and new viewers to get in on the conversations that have already taken place, and also gives our regulars a chance to give us an update on anything that they'd like to tell us, anything they've found, any new way to cope with their issues, or anything like that. I tell you what, this rain is wonderful, but it's me. Okay, so we are going to be revisiting ADD and ADHD. Now, this includes child onset and adult onset. ADD is attention deficit disorder, which usually ends up with a lot of distractibility, a lot of inattentiveness, forgetfulness, and things like that, where ADHD is attention deficit and hyperactive disorder. While you get the wonderful thrills of ADD, you also have an unlimited supply of energy that can sometimes be overwhelming to others. Don't forget to give a follow if you want to keep in touch, if you want to keep coming back, or want to just give a follow. Turn on notifications if you want to remember, or not have to remember, when these streams are happening. It is every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Now I'm going to go ahead and take the time to do my shout outs while my out of dates little picture scroll is going through. Go ahead and say thank you again to Spanner in the Works. Without them, I wouldn't even be here streaming. I wouldn't have found my calling for mental health advocacy within the streaming community. The Tower of Isa. They helped with my VTuber avatars. This one is absolutely perfect for what I was looking for. Kay Appleby for assisting with my banner. Kitsue for digitizing the Dragon Panther Studios logo. And of course, DPS, also known as Dragon Panther Studios. Check them out at dragonpantherstudios.com. They were recently in Comic-Con over in Colorado and sold quite a few of the eggs that I had produced. And I tell you what, it was a blast to see all the pictures from Comic-Con and everything else, and the people who showed up. And it looked like they had a lot of fun out there too. But Dragon Panther Studios is not just somebody who sells my eggs. They support streamers, they support the mental health community and other things. And to me, they represent a lot of community. They want to give back while also providing more, if that makes any sense. They want to provide more for streamers so that they can focus on their art, their gift to the world in the digital sense, as well as giving back to charities and also giving to streamers who are struggling to find a way to make ends meet while also trying to become a successful streamer. The Sanctuary Discord server has a wonderful logo. Gray made it. I helped a little, but I'm going to give him most of the credit. He came up with the main idea, and it's wonderful. There's an inverted version where it's a white background with the black image, and also the Dragon Panther Studios logo that I worked on. And say hello to Jasper, my little mascot. He's a sweetheart, and he is getting up there in age. Poor little joints are cracking everywhere. And then the QR code up in the top left under my logo, my QR code. It lists all the websites that you can reach me at if you need to reach anybody for mental health needs. You can also reach my Amazon wish list, and eventually I will have a link directly to a store. I haven't made it that far yet. But if anybody would like to purchase anything that I've created, especially the dragon eggs, which I can do commissions on those at all, it's what I've been making the most bonus income on the side. So I will go ahead and turn it over and say hello to everybody else who's in the stream. Hello, Dralex.
Hello.
Hi, Misty.
No.
And Squishy, how are you doing, sweetie?
I'm here.
It seems like a lot of people have been struggling today. But of course, we don't have to focus on the topic tonight throughout the entirety of the evening. What I will be doing tonight is a little different than what I've been doing the past few nights. I will be doing another drawing. This was an idea from my son, and it was a very good representation of some of the struggles with mental illness brought to visual form. So I'm going to work on that while we talk about our topic tonight. So tonight's topic, for those that need a refresher, was for a revisit to ADD and ADHD. And hello, Peach. Welcome to the chat. Glad to have you back. And if anybody needs a refresher on the last time we talked about mental health with ADD and ADHD, we had quite a few people who actually were diagnosed either recently or at a young age. Different ways that it can impact somebody's life and also hinder, and some of the medications that everybody's been taking. And feel free to share, but it is not mandatory.
So, hi. if you've ever been in a room with me, you might guess I have ADHD. And which does mean that it affects me in a variety of different ways and flavors and things. But it's not just. I feel like I need a thread to start pulling at, and then we'll start rambling effectively.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things to talk about, and I don't know which one.
Okay, well, let's, from the last time that you shared, you stated you were diagnosed at an earlier age, correct?
Yes, I was diagnosed rather young. I don't off the top of my head know exactly when, but it's like on the order of like second grade.
Okay.
Which speaks to both how clear it was at the time that something that I was not acting exactly like all the other kids, and also to the wonderful and dedicated and caring work of my parents in not just writing that off as, oh, that's just Alex, and actually digging into that and figuring out and doing the work on, at that age to figure out what my need, that my needs were different than a lot of the other kids my age, and how to go about meeting them.
Mm-hmm.
Which has meant that I have not had the experience a lot of other people of, oh, that's why my entire life everything has been like that. But has been, my entire life has been like that, and I've understood exactly why, and which has at least let me better understand what's going on and explain it, whether to myself or others. But also that I've been able to not feel or to internalize that as part of my identity without feeling it be particularly stigmatized, which I know that it sometimes is.
Mm-hmm. And you're taking medication, right?
Correct. Well, most days. Every day that I remember, which, for someone with ADHD is most days. And that has been something that helps with being able to function effectively in normal society beyond, not just to do that, but I guess to function at my full potential without having a bunch of life stuff that I've forgotten or been unable to effectively focus on get in the way.
Okay.
If those words in that order make some amount of sense. They're not quite the right ones, but they're
I think they make sense enough. As someone who also who has ADD, there is that little bit of difference with the energy levels. I only have ADD, and my issue is inattentiveness, memory lapse, and just general forgetfulness. But you also have the hyperactive portion of that, of your diagnosis, on top of the standard symptoms.
Yes. Which has its ways of manifesting, and so that was much more pronounced when I was much younger, and now it's a lot of that is managed not necessarily by meds, but by, shall we say, habit of restraining and channeling that to within more socially acceptable channels.
Okay.
As it means there's an element of like there's attention deficit, but which means that sometimes it's hard to focus on things. But there's also the reverse, which is that sometimes it's hard not to focus on things, and that sometimes is very useful, and sometimes is a problem when the thing that is very hard not to focus on isn't the thing you're supposed to be doing, or is not even the thing that you're doing, but it's the thing that you're thinking about doing. Which is, that could be, okay, I've been playing Minecraft recently, and so just because I am not in front of the game doesn't mean that I'm not thinking about Minecraft, planning about Minecraft, doing, figuring out, so trying to think of all the problems that I'm going to be needing to solve in that. Or that could be, a craft project. Okay, well, and I'm sure, I'm sitting in front of my desk, writing out a Word document, but I'm also going over a pattern, going over a pattern in my head, and because that is more interesting and more dopamine causing, because ADHD, my understanding of the neuroscience of it is essentially I forget the exact biology of the cause, but the root effect is generalized dopamine deficiency, which can be treated in a variety of different ways, some of which is doing something interesting, which unfortunately often doesn't line up with what most of us have to do for work.
Mm-hmm.
but that it also causes dopamine seeking behavior, which means things which and that inattentiveness is, wow, I'm feeling dopamine deficient and this activity is giving me none of it because it is boring.
Mm-hmm.
Which it's or wow, that activity is really dopamine positive and I can't get enough of it. It can make things feel short-term addictive. And that if you're doing, which is where the hyperfocus, which is the neurochemistry roots of the hyperfocus. And so, where was it? Yes. So, like, for one thing, for me, touching is a dopamine added activity. Which is why I do it so much. Because talking with people and the exchange of ideas is great and gives me, like, I feel connected. I'm feeling like I'm engaging in an interesting way. I've got, like, socialization is all great for me, which means that any activity where I'm talking to someone is going to be I'm going to be able to focus on much more effectively than any activity that I am doing. More often than not, any activity that I'm doing talking to someone is going to be more engaging to me than an activity where I'm not talking to someone, on average.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned that to be, and do my best to try to harness that to help get through a lot of things that I wouldn't otherwise want to do, but can sometimes do while I'm engaging with things like this. Like, as in right now, I am currently going around my apartment collecting dishes to load the dishwasher, because I was certainly not going to be doing this before this call, but now the fact that I'm able to do this, I'm able to turn this into a, dopamine positive activity. I had a different point in this one, and I don't remember what that one was, but we're here now.
Tangents are definitely a thing. I will say that.
Who, me? Who, me? We were talking about me, right? I'm not entirely sure. We could have been talking about anything.
That's fair. No, I was diagnosed in middle school after I got thrown out of class because the teacher literally told me I was not paying attention. And I looked at him and I went, I actually know more about this subject than you do, and started actually running his entire subject, and it was because I was so bored, and I've always enjoyed reading, that I'd gone and read so far ahead just to keep myself entertained, for lack of a better way to put it, because it was English. He was also the same teacher who told me that I could not read insomnia at the age I was.
I was told I couldn't
no way
read
I could
Pet
understand
Sematary.
it.
Oh yeah, I remember being told there's no way you could there's no way you could be have read through the entirety of Harry Potter the Harry Potter book in one day, and I'm like, well, yeah, I just didn't do anything else that day. It was a really good book.
Yeah, but it kept your mind engaged, and
so much.
Even though everything else around you was still going on to your massive whiteboard of, yes, I know all of this is going on around me because I can't filter it out, this was allowing you to hyper-focus because it kept you engaged.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And, let's see here. I've been through 3 different medications, and only one of them actually managed to work. They had me on Ritalin. It worked up to the point where I became a monster at the end of the day, and my parents literally put a lock on my door. And it wasn't a matter of, they were locking me in. It was a matter of I was so angry that I would become violent coming off of Ritalin, which is one of the major reasons that they moved over to Adderall, which I also took. It allowed me to better control those drops, for lack of a better way to put it. And eventually they moved me over to Vyvanse. And
That's what I'm on.
yeah, and I enjoyed that a lot better. It was everything I needed without the massive I'm angry at everything at the end of the day. Or when it decided it was going to run out of my system.
Interesting.
So, and that's why I like Vyvanse as far as a medication for dealing with ADD over the other two, because they just literally made me violent. But growing up, it was hard to make friends. It was hard to have people understand me because, as far as anyone was concerned, I never focused on anything. I never paid attention. It wasn't that I wasn't paying attention, it was I was literally paying attention to everything at one time. And nobody could understand that. And the greatest explanation I ever heard, and I've already made reference to it, is the way people with ADD see it, and this is the best way I have for people who don't have ADD, is you have a giant whiteboard. Most people have their whiteboard cut into 4 quadrants. The parts, they need to focus on, the parts they don't need to, the parts that are semi-important, and everything else. And they can focus on which quadrant they need to focus on to get said tasks done, and they can move stuff around within those quadrants. Someone with ADD, you have a whiteboard. Everything goes on it. Cricket chirps, it's there. Squirrel runs by, it's there. The guy talking in the meeting, yep, he's on there too. But they're in no particular order.
This is one of the cases where I know you're speaking metaphorically, but you're also sometimes speaking literally. You have a whiteboard and everything goes on it.
And actually, I wish I had a whiteboard. I want one in my room.
They're not expensive.
Yeah, I've got my sketch pads.
Yep.
Hi, sweetie.
But yeah, and
thought I recognized
that's the
that
best
voice.
way I've had to explain it to people who don't have it, because it's the way it can make more sense to them. And I've had people actually start understanding.
See, my experience is a little bit more like a junk drawer full of people, and all those people are basically throwing around the things that I need. So I have to try and reach in and grab them as quickly as I can. And if I forget what I'm doing, then it's all over because something else is in my hands now.
Yep, been there, done that too.
Mine is, how can I explain? It's similar to those, but I have a problem with losing my lists. I like to have organization, I like to have lists to keep track of everything because I know I don't remember things very well. But at the same time, sometimes there's too much on each list, and then sometimes I have more than one list, and I cross off something on one list and I find another list with 5 or 6 more things on it. And I keep going back and forth between these lists, and I'll get halfway between something and then remember, oh, this other thing was on my list, so I have to do that now. So it's a constant change of direction that I have.
Well, and that causes basically mental whiplash
Mm-hmm.
because you're bouncing back and forth between two topics or more, and it's like, oh, I'm gonna go over here. No, I'm gonna go over there. And then because the two are pulling you in different directions, you fall into a third thing or whatnot.
Yeah, the task switching is sometimes very difficult. If you're in the middle of something and then you need to deal with something else, often the only way to switch tasks is to just mentally drop everything, which uh, which can be problematic when you get disrupted in a task, go do something and come back and go, I remember nothing about what I was doing here. I've lost the thread of it.
Oh yeah, no, that's every day. That's especially like with making music. If I'm like doing one instrument, I have to basically completely finish that line because if I like stop to work on something else and come back to it, I'll forget every note I was playing.
Task switching is just a struggle sometimes, and it's like it's easy if you can come to like a natural stopping point and transition off. It's great. It's easy. There's like if you're not at the end of it, then you're just asking for a bad time. Or an incomplete task. Yeah, interesting. I was gonna say, interesting take on meds there, because I'm currently on Adderall, but I've personally never had issues with anger or a drop, but also I'm really bad at feeling the effects of the meds. Not that they don't affect me, they very noticeably do, but I don't internally feel any difference on or off the meds. And really, the only way that I have to tell if I like the two ways two ways I can tell if I've taken a minute. One, if it's missing, if that day is missing from my meds container. Two, if I ask someone around me, they can usually tell me if I've taken them or not. Or three, by examining my own actions and going, this seems like the kind of thing that a medicated Alex would do, or this seems like the kind of thing a non-medicated Alex would do. And inferring from my own behavior, but I can't actually tell. Well, it makes it really hard to tell how long the meds last, or if they've worn off by now. Which it sounds like that wasn't your experience of. You could tell when the meds wore off.
Oh yeah, real quick and in a hurry, because I got very angry. Now, did I directly know I was getting angry? No. Everybody else caught it because I was flying off the handle left and right. I didn't notice a change. I just knew that at this time, every day, I started getting mad. And then people thought I had, anger management issues.
Well, yes, the anger was very well managed. It was right as clockwork. You could put it on your schedule.
Mm-hmm.
At 5:15, get mad. Sorry,
I'll put myself over here, away from everybody, leave me alone for X amount of time.
So essentially, you became a lightning.
Mm-hmm. But then when I got onto Vyvanse, that part of it went away.
But I'm glad to hear that you found something that works. That's really great.
Except I am now fighting because I no longer have my medication.
Insurance companies can all go fuck off.
Oh, that's not the
Language,
problem.
please.
Oh, my apologies. Though I feel it is still slightly just.
Oh, do not argue it's not justified, but yes, please watch.
My
Um,
that's sincere apologies.
but no, my problem is I lost insurance for a long time, so I forced myself
dear.
to learn to manage my ADD on my own.
That
And
sounds
now trying
difficult.
to go back and get the medication for it is nearly impossible because I have none of my doctors that I had when I was diagnosed are still practicing. Those records were sealed because I was a child.
And now that you're somewhat well managing, you're not actively presenting symptoms as problems in order to get re-diagnosed.
And in order to get re-diagnosed at this point in time, I have to go through a full neurological test. Mm-hmm.
What's wrong with that? I'm sorry to hear that. I'm
So now people just have to deal with me randomly bouncing from one subject to another while I'm talking with them and not realizing I randomly switched conversations or making a statement and giving absolutely no context because, as far as I'm concerned, the context is there.
well, yeah, no, like I know exactly what you mean. The context is always there. You just need to
Did you
follow it
let
for all six
everybody else
tangents.
know?
Yeah, the context is always there. You just need to follow it for all six tangents, and I know I only mentioned four of them out loud.
Yep. And Kitty is laughing because
Oh,
they
I know all about the
exactly.
tangents.
And the missing ones that nobody knows about. Yep. So, yeah, no, ADD is one of those. It kicks you in the face and nobody actually realizes how much it kicks you in the face. And it's very draining on a daily basis.
It is. But something I want to make mention of, because a lot of people may think that one of the symptoms of the diagnosis would be anger. No, that was a symptom that developed from the medication. ADD is not inherently a mood destabilizing disorder where you can fly off the handle or anything like that. Typically, it's one of the comorbidities that will cause something similar to that, or the medication. And a perfect example.
Mine was the medication.
Yes, perfect example of comorbidities would be with my son, because not only does he have ADHD, he also has anxiety, he has depression, he also has ODD, and a little bit of CD, which is conduct disorder. Those items on his list will cause aggressive outbursts, especially the ODD and the CD. ODD is oppositional defiant disorder. Now, most parents of teenagers would think, oh yeah, that's pretty normal. Hi, Jasper. But this is something that's, they fight back on a constant basis. Even if they know they're wrong, they will constantly fight back. Jasper, now it's time. It is definitely not time for your dinner. Your dinner is 8:30. On per baby. I got a picture to draw. So, being said, he is very commonly linked to other disorders, not as a thanks Jasper, not as a cause, but as a comorbidity. And what a comorbidity is in layman's terms, it's commonly diagnosed alongside another diagnosis because it's commonly found together. It's commonly linked in some way to where if you have this diagnosis, you more than likely have this other one too, especially if you're showing the symptoms. Down. Oh, yeah.
Casper don't care.
Jasper definitely don't care.
Jasper does care, but just in the opposite polarity than you want them to.
Yeah, no, and that's why I said, and that's why I was trying to be as clear as possible that as the medication switched, that went away because it was the medication causing it. It was just I was diagnosed so long ago that Ritalin was the only option I had at the time.
Makes sense. And it seems like you then were able to at least somewhat try your other options to see what may work better for you. Which it seems like literally anything and also a little bit of nothing, and also potentially nothing work better for you. Now that you're more of an adult and able to start to recognize and manage the symptoms yourself, rather than to being a child where you're all much more reactive, and less fully self-aware of the all of the different details of our own situation and consequences of our own situation.
Well, and it also comes into being cognizant of your own mind after a while. Because when you're younger, you don't understand how your mind's working. It took me actually going and trying to get a master's in psychology to actually kind of get to the point of that. Unfortunately, I never got past, getting my associates, but things happen.
Is there anything that anybody else wants to talk about? Any along the lines of the topic tonight or any other topic like doing today? How things have been kind of rough today for a lot of people, or last week, this week? Anything exciting going on? Any positive things happening that you want to share?
Dragon Panther Studios went to a con this weekend and we did a good job and we sold stuff and a lot of people saw us. So hopefully there's some new people around.
Yes, I did mention that in my intro. It wasn't something everybody heard, but I did mention a lot of that. So, very happy, very proud of the company, and also Panther, very proud of you because I know that had to have been draining. Be around that much of a people-y scene.
Yeah, it was pretty tough, and I was with two other people with their own social anxiety issues, so our whole table has pretty much just been recovering for the past couple of days.
Oh, the curl up in a corner and go leave me alone, I'm gonna be a blanket gremlin?
Kind of.
Yeah. Yep, social anxiety's never fun, but on a more positive note, I've actually finally busted my sketchbook out again.
Right.
Yay!
So,
Do more art.
Huzzah.
Yep, and my art, I use it to generally get what's in my brain out of my brain.
That's what it's best for.
Yeah, I kept forgetting I had it, and then it mentioned while we were, when she was getting ready that she was going to be sketching, and I'm like, oh, I should probably go dig all that stuff up. And so now I'm sitting and sketching while doing this. So
Yeah.
I think my writing is more where everything's at, but in my current state, writing is not a good idea. Cleaning up lines.
Alrighty. I'm kind of getting lost in my sketch here.
But sometimes that's a good thing, though.
Yeah, but then you got too much air.
Yeah, that's also true. But I mean, my thing isn't that necessarily anything wrong has been going on, but it's also not kind of that seasonal either. It's just kind of all the brain weasels are jumping out and pulling out the facts and statistics they want to look at and are putting them in my face. And it's one of those where you kind of have to. Best way to do it is try fight their logic with the other side of the equation, and that's not always easy. But I am glad that everything went well at the con for you guys. That's
Oh yeah. How was the cosplay game this year? On point? Any highlights?
I mean, it was pretty good all around. We went to Fan Expo last month, and it was a bigger convention, and it was out, in Denver. This was a much smaller con down in Colorado Springs, but like there were a lot more. But there were a lot more people there, like per capita, like more of the people who were there were cosplaying something. So there's a lot of really cool stuff. There are a lot of full family costumes and a lot of people who clearly put a whole lot of work into their stuff. So I was pretty stoked to just hang out there and watch all that.
That's pretty cool.
Sounds like a wonderful time.
It was, and we talked to a lot of cool people, and some of the vendors really liked what we were into, and everybody was really, really proud of us, I guess, because most of the time, I guess most people when they go for their first convention, they don't essentially break even, and I guess we at least made enough profit to cover the table. So, I don't know, we have to figure out all the finances and everything, but it seems like we did relatively good for it being our first time going out.
Oh, you faded quite a bit there.
Mostly thanks to the Dragon Eggs.
Or did I turn the volume down on accident?
Welcome back.
Yeah.
You decided you didn't want to listen to us. Okay. I see how it is.
Okay, so I have this guy that I have to hold out of the way.
Huh? Yeah, likely story.
Uh-huh. Yeah. We can play that game.
Hey, at least you know it's a game.
So the idea to this one was my son was describing what it was like in his head sometimes. And it was dealing with the anxieties and depression and such like that. I could figure that much out. But the way he described it was really interesting. It was similar to an older drawing of mine where it's like in the front, you know, you've got a few scratches, a few scrapes and everything. But in the back, you're completely torn to shreds where nobody can see it. One of my older photos or older drawings was pretty much my persona, cat girl, whatever, wearing a mask. And the mask was pretty worn at that time. It was cracked, flaking away and things. But at the same time, it was bolted in place. And through the cracks, through the eyes, you could see the tears, you could see the stress and everything else. And it was during a time where I was barely holding things together. So I can definitely understand his visualization of it as well.
And if you want, when I get done with this sketch, if you want to see it, I'll share it because this is literally kind of, for lack of a better way to put it, how I see what's going on.
I share the sketch I'm doing, but that's mostly just a euphemism for the dishes. Well, now I'm moving to laundry. Same difference. Could it be that all of the people in the ADHD talk are distracted? No, never.
That couldn't happen. Nope, not one bit. Never in a million years would something like that occur.
One bit.
That is slander and allegation, sir.
I definitely haven't gotten random social messages from two different people over the course of this conversation that possibly go, ooh, shiny. Wait, no, I'm already having a conversation right now.
Yes, but ooh shiny, I will hold 3 conversations at once. Have a nice day.
How dare you accuse me so accurately?
You're welcome. No, I've never done that before. Yeah,
been able to successfully keep it to only 3.
I have to I will share this. my dad, when I was in high school, when I first finally got my actual real computer set up, um, the way he put it is he walked into my room, was going to say something about what I was doing, and he was like, "This is chaos," and turned around and walked out, didn't say anything. And he only brought it up to me later on with, how do you keep up with having a conversation, playing a game, writing code, and on top of that, listening to music, all while sitting there and having a sketch that I can tell you are gradually working on at one time. You only
Are
have
there
two
other ways?
hands,
Oh,
and that that was the point at which he realized just what ADD was doing to me. I had to be doing multiple things at once in order to be able to focus on something.
I liken the the example of that I use is I'll go to open YouTube and watch a YouTube video and then realize that I was doing that while currently already actively watching a YouTube video.
Well, I do that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, you're like, oh, I should really watch YouTube. Oh, right, that's what I was already doing. That was like, okay, I've successfully got my background noise in place. Now I need foreground noise as well.
And then once you got the foreground noise in play, you realize you need tertiary noise on top of the background noise. Yep.
With all of this going on, it does strike me to ask this question.
Hmm.
Is anybody with an ADD or ADHD diagnosis, are you actually able to, um, oh, and the word just left, no,
Function? Focus?
meditate, there's the word.
Yes.
Yes.
How?
Actually,
No.
very successfully.
Because you can
Sometimes in certain
hyperfocus.
circumstances, but not at will.
Hyperfocus is another method that ADHD can present itself. So, meditation is actually really, really good and beneficial for those with ADHD because they can hyperfocus, and that hyperfocusing helps them to pay attention to the meditation that they're trying to do. I like to use guided meditation because it lets my brain stop focusing while focusing at the same time. Or how that works, but it does.
No, I understand exactly what you're saying with that.
It's like
If you
blind
try to
following.
empty your mind, something else will always fill it. But if you have something to focus on, you can empty your mind of everything but that.
Mm-hmm. So,
Which will get you into that meditative state. Yep.
and that's why I like guided meditation. It's all cheesy at first, but when you just let it go, no jokes, please.
But
No.
it's
No Disney.
It's right there.
No Disney.
But it's you opened the door and you're telling us to close it.
Anyhow, yeah, being able to just give that release and give into the guided meditation, it actually helped quite a bit.
It's actually saved my life a few times being able to meditate because there have been times where I've been falling so far and I just stop and somehow manage to block everything out and get myself back onto an even keel after a while. Don't know how I do it, but it works. I think it's the survival aspect of my body kicking in and going, oh, this'll work. I think we're all getting distracted again.
I'll be here as soon as I finish writing out this message.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
And then respond with the other one. But then yes.
Uh-huh. You want us to believe that?
Well, yeah, eventually one of them has to stop replying. It's not going to be me.
And then eventually one of us is going to grab your attention and say something that's going to be like, oh, okay, they can wait.
So
Yes,
Squishy,
of course. I thought that went without saying.
Squishy, in terms of meditation, have you already tried something?
I have tried a couple of different things. One, I've tried just, absolute quiet meditation. That certainly doesn't work. I've tried guided meditation, and it kind of helps, but I have a very hard time sitting still altogether when I'm not doing something else.
And that's
People
another
can
thing.
sit still intentionally.
That's
Right.
another aspect of ADD and ADHD is you have all this energy that you're constantly doing, constantly fiddling with something. What you can do is get a worry stone while you're meditating. That way you can just have that tactile, and all it is a little flat stone that has a groove in it, and you can rub your finger across it or your thumb, and it gives you that tactile need or fulfillment of doing something while you're mostly still.
The closest I have come to quieting my mind, as random and backwards as it seems, is when I'm riding my motorcycle.
I actually can understand how and why that happens because you lose yourself to the road, the feel of the engine, and it it's almost like being um it's the opposite of sensory deprivation. It's almost like you're going into sensory overload, thus your brain will actually quiet down because there's too much for it to focus on aside from keeping you steady.
Mm-hmm.
I've got an explanation for this I really like. I have 1.5 attention spans. If I'm trying to focus on something, that'll be a full attention span, and then that extra half is wandering around. And if it finds something more interesting than what I'm doing, then I'll suddenly switch over, and suddenly that'll take my full attention, and what I'm doing only takes half my attention. But if I can fill up that half of an attention span with balancing in a chair or some other physical movement that my brain can be doing, then that will keep that half an attention span from wandering else and finding something more interesting that will distract me. Which means that by doing something else, it helps me focus because I'm less likely to get distracted.
I like that. 1.5 attention spans. I dig it.
I like it.
I do. It's a very good analogy.
I mean, also anyone who's met me will usually also back up the fact that I have 1.5 attention.
This is true.
Jumping back to a previous previous stream, but yeah, in the last couple of years, I have gotten better at, while being around people who I don't classify as coworkers, at masking less and
Awesome.
having a noticeably improved quality of life feeling for it.
That's definitely
Well,
amazing to hear.
because I'm more authentically myself more of But yeah, stimming is absolutely a very real and major thing that is a somewhere between a survival necessity and a very versatile tool.
Oh, and the only reason I mentioned that with the motorcycle is that's more or less how it worked when I'd go out and just find an open stretch of road and just ride. It was like my mind just emptied and all there was me and the road.
Yeah, it's not to say that I'm not paying attention to all of the cars around me, the quality of the road that I'm riding on, um, the different sounds around me, making sure there aren't police or fire coming up behind me.
Mm-hmm.
That is still very present and very real and, present danger, really, is what it is. But even with all of that going on, I can finally relax a little into it.
Yep.
Sounds like you're focusing on all of that instead of everything, instead of whatever was previously on your mind.
Yeah, and I do not have any diagnosis of any sort. I mean, I have a family history of my brother's ADD, my sister's ADHD, but I have not been diagnosed with anything. But in getting to know myself more and trying to be more authentically myself, I keep running into more and more things that sound like, okay, maybe I do have, I don't know. So, in learning more about what other people experience and how things manifest, I'm hoping it gives me more insight, and then whenever I have the financial means and time, possibly going and getting tested for it. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the best way I can organize how I keep myself going and how I learn to deal with it is organized chaos.
There are
I know
other
where,
systems than that?
yeah, but I know where everything is, but it doesn't make sense to anyone who looks at it.
There are other systems. I prefer horizontal organization of I've laid everything out so at any time I can see all of it and have continuous visual cues and reminders. Oh yeah, that. Oh yeah, that. Oh yeah, that. Because out of sight, out of mind.
Yep.
Like I am, for those who have been over to my place and know my closet, I have a walk-in closet where I can see from one position every single item of clothing I own, all of them. And because any of item that I could not see, I would find the next time I moved, and no sooner.
No, and
Yeah.
I know some people who they organize things in circles. I've seen people do that. And they just follow the circles from one place to the next, and they can bounce between them. For me, just having something that looks chaotic to constantly allow me to bounce between anything within that sphere works. It just confuses everybody else.
There we go. Not the best piece, but you know what? It's pretty good for a one shot deal.
I will say, your art is far better than mine. I like it.
I will also reiterate what I day one. Thank you for the lurk. Since day one, I have had to teach myself not to compare myself to others' art. Because it is not fair to you, nor is it fair to the artist. It is not fair for the sake of art to say that somebody else's is better than yours or not. While it is okay to remain humble, give yourself credit. Because art is art. Whether it's the best stick figure on the planet or a masterpiece in a museum. So, I, for one, would love to see your art.
Oh, like I said, when I get done with it, I will share it. I do enjoy sharing my art.
We have different styles. So that's another thing. Other people's styles aren't going to be. Other people may have different experiences for a lot longer of a time. Started. So. Yeah.
Or they took a break way longer.
Or they've been formally trained and all these. Not everybody's going to have the same.
Oh, yeah.
That doesn't mean yours is any less valid.
Oh, I wasn't saying my art isn't valid. My art is always valid, and I will always say my art is valid. I just personally, I think yours is very well done.
So, this is my son's representation. Strong on the front. Got a few scars. But he's still the same guy.
Yep.
But we're no.
Yep.
And it's good for him to share. And I'm so glad that he's finally opening up about it. For the longest time, he would hold back, block it out, until he would explode in outburst. And he is medicated. He has been for many years. think we found the final threshold of how much he needs. He and I are both on very similar medication, different diagnoses, but we also have similar diagnoses. Abilify is one that is generally described as a mood stabilizer. And I take very little, he takes quite a bit more. But he doesn't swallow pills, he chews them. He doesn't like to swallow pills. Can't. But that's because one day he heard about a statistic that like 1 in 5 people can't take pills, and he's like, oh, that's me. And he's as stubborn as his mother. So
You're not stubborn.
He has never taken pills, like swallowing pills with water. He's always chewed them, and he doesn't complain about the taste unless it's a fruity chewable for kids. So apparently he likes bitter. So he takes half of one in the morning and half at night, and that has mellowed him out quite a bit.
So what I'm hearing is he's gonna like coffee when he's older.
Probably. No. Because he's already on Vyvanse as well, but he's on a higher dose than I am. But it is half of what it used because of the Abilify. And again, when he remembers to take them, or when I remember to remind him, sometimes it's just not going to happen that day. But we've both been getting better at it. So.
Yeah, I actually, when I was in middle school, my parents actually had alarms set for me. And depending on what alarm it was, I knew what needed to be done.
Opinion about this.
Okay.
Before I end this. Die.
Oh no, those.
Why we can't have nice things?
That's exactly why we can't have nice things.
I keep dropping every. Okay. So. Alright, he heard me now. So, here's a bit of a close-up for those who couldn't see it very well.
Ooh, very nicely done.
What do you think? Remember that conversation we had the other night? About what it's like inside sometimes? Mirror? Okay. No?
Accurate enough.
Enough?
Enough.
Alright, say hi to the stream.
Oh, what's up, y'all? Hold on.
Heyo.
Don't make me do those noises.
Please don't.
I'm gonna sound like a... I don't know how to say this.
Don't. That's always the better choice.
Oh!
Oh! Ow! Ow! Hi, Jasper.
Ow.
Grace has term school.
Man, don't pull his tail. This is gonna make us slap you.
Likes his tail pulled. Gently and with control.
Oh, like this?
Anyhow, I want to thank everybody for joining in on the stream tonight, everybody who listened in, and always my lovely little lurkers. It's such a pleasure to have each of you in here sharing and listening, and I appreciate each of you who shared tonight. It's always a pleasure to listen, and remember, you don't have to share, but when you do open up, everybody is grateful for it. That's not a guilt trip whatsoever. I just realized how that sounded. So, no pressure. Thank you all again, and go ahead and check out Dragon Panther Studios at dragonpantherstudios.com. Give my QR code a scan and just check things out in general. Who knows, you might find something you like. Alright, I will see you guys on the next stream. Next stream should be oh no, it's the last Tuesday of the month, and I think I'm going to change it up and play an interview that night. So I'm going to work on either a paint with diamonds, or I'm going to work on another egg and play a recorded interview with one of my oldest best friends, Deanie. And she is somebody who has dealt with mental health for quite some time as well. We both kind of knew there was something off and were diagnosed much later in life. So, tune in next week, same time, same channel, 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. With me, Being Dead Cat, near Health Street. Alright, take care of yourselves, everybody.
Hey.